What do this bottle and this bag have in common? Exactly, cork. These are Cork Oak Acorns, and I collected them during a short holiday a couple of weeks ago in the south of Spain. One thing to realize if you want to grow oaks from acorns is that the acorns can dry out. And once they're dried out, they usually lose their viability. So collect the ones that are nice and shiny, and until you plant them, make sure they stay moist. And typically that can be a couple of weeks. And at a certain point you'll see roots appearing, and that is a really good time to plant. But you can also plant them when they are still closed. They have been in my fridge and they're humid. And if I now look at them, I see the first one is opening up. Now it is time to decide what am I going to do with it. These are slightly frost resistant, so I'm going to plant a whole bunch of them in a pot into my garage and protect them well against mice and voles and things like that. Every oak is slightly different, so make sure that once you collect your acorns, you check how to germinate this individual species of oak. Some of these, however, I'm going to put in a little bit of sphagnum and keep them in the baggie in the fridge for another week or two. Because with the first one opening up, I can actually try something. All of them create a long taproot that will go down 20, 30, 40, 50 centimeters, so that's 1 to 2 feet. And that is a problem if you ever want to create a nice nabari. So removing the taproot early on is a very good idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let these root, and once the root is a centimeter or two long, I'm going to clip off the root and then plant them. And why I think it works is because this is all storage of energy. So this can stay for a long time before it drains all the energy. My thinking is that if you clip off the taproot very early on, you'll get loads and loads of side roots. Sphagnum, of course, has antifungal properties. Keeps water well, but isn't soaking wet. So just a layer of it in here. I'm going to just dump these acorns on there. And I said keep it in the fridge, but of course the shed is a fridge as well. It's actually cold. Look at these beautiful acorns. And I can just pop them in here, a whole bunch of them, until they start to sprout. Actually, this one is starting to sprout. It's late February, and if I now look at these acorns that I put in a little container, look at how many are sprouting. This is unbelievable. You see, they are making these nice little roots. Now what you have to know is that with oaks, the acorn always sprouts the root first. So what you see is the root tip, and damaging the root tip in nature is quite normal. So I think it will just re-sprout. Closed. This one has sprouted, and then I have now them all laying down. I'm going to put them vertically on end, so that the root tip that I cut off and is left over now really stays nice and moist. So it's still a couple of weeks before it is really spring. Those are still quite dormant, and in a couple of weeks I'll pull them out, plant them up individually. This also doesn't look healthy. It's still very cold. Don't know whether the leaves do anything, but I know that they are always covered. Maybe it helps avoid drying out. But of course I've got a lid on this, so it should be okay. I'm running very much behind this year. And I noticed that these acorns have started to put some fungal infections on, but also that they've started to sprout little branches. So it is time to put them out. Unfortunately, I have a lot of mice. I have this tray that I'm going to plant them in, and then I'm going to just cover the whole tray with this mesh, and I hope that is enough to keep the mice out. As for substrate, I'm just keeping it very simple. This is just pine bark, if I can get it out of the bag. There we go. Should be plenty. And just a little bit for my mind. diatomaceous earth. And the rest will just be pumice and zeolite. And now I just place one acorn in every hole, making sure the acorn itself is under the soil line. And once I'm done, I'm just going to fill it up with substrate. I have to be gentle here. Some of these roots have grown a lot. Look at that. That's a healthy root. Wow. Mind you, I'm not going to do it to all of them, but a few I'm just going to see whether they live like this as well. I thought I'd done this already to most of them. Oh yeah, right, this is one that I did clip and it has a lot of roots already. Same here. Be very curious to see how all of these come out later on. I really don't know, but I've had problems with oaks and long taproots. It's not pretty. Well, let's see. Hope for little sprouts in a month or two. 6 holes left over, and in one of the pots there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. Let's see whether I can get these in there and that they'll survive. I think oaks are sensitive to the roots, so it might not work. So this is one acorn that didn't germinate. Another one. One that works, 2, 3, 4, 5. Naturally, I'm not going to do all that much to the roots. I'm just going to plop them in the pot. Now I'm a little bit concerned because we have these acorns here hanging off the seedlings. What would happen if I just pop them off? They seem to all have leaves. So this is really tricky. But this is probably better than being dug up by a bird or bit off by a mouse. So I'm not sure what comes and visits, but I'm certainly not happy about all these plants being dug up. This is really annoying. Must be a rodent of some kind. Even the early germinations are therefore not safe. Let's find a solution. Not pretty, but maybe it will do for the next couple of weeks. And then I've got to be very gentle when I pull this up. That these are bent is not so much of an issue for now. I want curves in the trunk anyway, and I'll get some buds to pop this direction and then gently remove it later on. These keep on getting dug up by mice. You see here the acorns sticking out of the ground. So I might just have to take the risk, even though it is almost June. I think I'm pulling these out of the pots and planting them up individually as well. But I'll do that later. Just don't be surprised if these all of a sudden are in individual pots, because I'm really fed up, but I don't have the time to do it right now. Last weekend of August, these cork bark oaks are doing really well. Problem is, I still have this mesh over here to stop the mice from getting to them. I guess I really need to now pull the mesh off, because otherwise I need to do it in winter, and I am a little bit concerned. These are not deciduous, so they will keep their leaves. I guess I'll just have to gently do it, and then I'll have to see whether these need wiring. I want the lower 5-10 centimeters of all these trunks to be twisted. Otherwise they'll be really boring in the future. Now some of them here have been scorched by the mesh, that's really good, but most of them have not. And some of them have started growing side branches, so this is not going to be easy. I might actually need to prune some of these to get the mesh off. I don't really know whether I want to do this on camera, to be honest. And of course I'm going to try to pull individual ones through the mesh, but at some point I might not be able to do this without damaging the whips. I'm here already struggling to not damage the foliage too much. Now here I have some that have really gotten twisted trunk. Here, this is one that has died off. This is still alive. This is a twin trunk without movement. How are the roots? That looks really healthy, but I don't want the big slugs in there, so I'm going to remove those. But as a whole, this is a nice healthy batch. And then of course I've got these that are in individual pots that I already worked on earlier. This one died, that's not good. Any others that died? Yeah, this one also died, that's no good. Yep, that. 17, 18 cork bark oaks. Cork oaks. I said I was going to have to wire those, but I think that I now have a nice variety of trees that have a straight trunk and ones that have a twisted trunk. I'm going to remove the little friends from the tray, and then I'm just going to keep them over winter, and then I'll see in spring which ones I prune and which I don't. These that I've potted up individually already early on, they seem to be doing quite well. There's one here that has a little bit of a died top, but everything else is growing. It's nice and healthy. I can start developing these individually as little trees. I might actually plant some out in the ground. All the pots have been cleaned out, and you can tell they're quite different in their nature. So some of them are just long whips, others have a side branch. This one actually has a triplicate branch. Don't like that. Let's make that a duplicate. Now I've got one side branch here, and these are split. So I'm removing this side branch here, and now it is all duplicates. This one has some damage. The top died, a side branch is alive. Let's remove this dead top and the dead leaf here. And similarly, I go through all of these trees and I remove everything that has died off as an initial step. And then I need to decide whether I'm going to wire these out. Now cork oak, of course, is not completely winter hardy, so I'm not going to wire all of them. But I could of course wire the two long whips and see how they survive until spring. And then I know for next year whether wiring them out in winter is a problem or not for this species. And this is how I typically handle species that I don't know. I just take one or two, try it. If nothing happens, I try it with more. And at a certain point you know whether something will happen or not. You might of course also lose at a certain point one or two of these seedlings. But considering how many I have, it's not a problem, because this isn't at all. I've got a huge tray sitting right there. Let's wire these two out. And for the rest, I don't think I'm going to do all that much with these. And the wiring out, of course, can be quite straightforward. This is 1.5 mils of aluminium. The base of this stem is already a little thicker because I think I cut it once. And now I just gently spiral the wire around. Note, if you keep a little bit more distance from the trunk and you have the wire at the long end, it's very easy to spiral. And if you keep it very close, you need a lot of force to put it in place. So keep the wire a little bit longer where possible. It's easier to apply. And now I think it's just a matter of making a few bends. And I like to contort in multiple directions. I think it looks a little bit more natural. And the idea is of course to not try to do something, but just make random curves, movements, so that later on when it ages and thickens, you just have an oddly twisted trunk in there. Right. Now, let's see in spring whether this still lives. And let's do the same with this one. This I'm just going to prune a little bit shorter. Not a real reason for it, except for compact growth. This is a side branch. This is a side branch. And this is the leader that gets to grow. Hope the helicopter is not too loud. All twisted up and tangled, ready to go for spring. And that was the cork oaks. Let's put these back together a little bit again. This way they protect each other from the coldest wind. And in December, they're a little bit scruffy looking, but even the ones that are wired out tightly, they're all doing quite well. Need to pay a little bit of attention. If it gets cold, I might have to put them inside, but I think this is very nice. And I might as well just say thank you for watching, seeing how you can propagate cork oak. Quite easy. Just make sure the rodents don't get them, but besides that, easy peasy. See you next time. This was Jelle, growing bonsai.